Congo-Kinshasa, will Trump's mining deal save DR Congo? Exploring the US-Congolese strategic partnership. Welcome to the Bold African Voice, BAV, where we dive into the heart of Africa's most pressing issues with critical analysis and forward-looking solutions. I'm Abdul Karim Kargbo, born and raised in Africa. In today's video, we're exploring the potential US-Congolese mining deal that could shape the future of DR Congo and its role in the global mineral market. Is this the rescue the country needs, or will it lead to more challenges? Let's find out. In the heart of Africa, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DR Congo, is embroiled in a conflict that has severely destabilized its eastern regions. Amid the ongoing struggle against the M23 rebels and the Rwandan forces backing them, the Congolese government is seeking a strategic partnership with the United States. The country hopes to leverage its vast mineral resources as a bargaining chip in negotiations, possibly resulting in a groundbreaking US-Congolese mining deal. While early discussions have begun, the specifics remain vague, leaving many questions unanswered about the potential impacts on DR Congo's security, economy, and geopolitical positioning. Strategic value of DR Congo's mineral resources. The Democratic Republic of the Congo holds some of the world's most significant reserves of critical minerals, including cobalt, coltan, copper, and lithium. These minerals are essential for cutting-edge technologies in sectors such as defense, renewable energy, and electronics, which have made DR Congo a key player in the global minerals market. Cobalt, for example, is integral to the production of electric vehicle batteries, making it a highly sought-after resource in the context of the global transition to cleaner energy. The United States has expressed interest in tapping into these reserves. The U.S. State Department has confirmed that preliminary discussions about a mining partnership are underway. For Congolese authorities, the allure of securing Western support against the rebel insurgency in the east is undeniable. The M23 group, which has been active in North and South Kivu since its resurgence in 2021, has been accused of exploiting the region's mineral wealth with the help of Rwanda. The proposed deal, what we know, the potential agreement was first brought to light in February 2024, when Congolese President Félix Tshisekedi publicly discussed the possibility of granting the United States access to his country's mineral wealth. In an interview with the New York Times, Tshisekedi suggested that such a partnership could help secure much-needed military support from the U.S., ultimately helping the Congolese government counter the M23 threat and prevent further exploitation of the country's resources by foreign-backed armed groups. According to Tshisekedi's proposal, the deal would offer the U.S. operational control of a deep-water port in DR Congo, which could serve as an export hub for minerals. In exchange, the U.S. would provide training and equipping of Congolese armed forces, ensuring the protection of vital mineral supply routes from groups like M23. Some reports have suggested that such a partnership could even replace the existing UN peacekeeping mission, MONUSCO, which has been criticized for its inability to maintain peace in the volatile region. However, this offer raises serious questions, particularly about its feasibility and implications. As noted by experts like Jason K. Stearns, a leading U.S. scholar on the DR Congo, the idea of U.S. military deployment directly in the region contradicts former President Donald Trump's America First doctrine, which aimed at reducing U.S. military involvement abroad. Moreover, the Congolese army's struggles in the east suggest that this proposed military support might be the most tangible aspect of the deal. The role of Rwanda and the U.S.-sanctioned targets. A major factor driving DR Congo's pursuit of this deal is the ongoing conflict with Rwanda. Kigali has long been accused of supporting the M23 rebels and of profiting from the illicit mineral trade in the eastern DRC. In February 2024, the U.S. took a significant step in addressing this issue by imposing sanctions on Rwandan officials, including James Kabarebe, Rwanda's Minister of State for Regional Integration, and Lawrence Kanyuka, spokesperson for the M23. These sanctions targeted key individuals involved in the exploitation of Congolese minerals, signaling Washington's growing frustration with Rwanda's role in the conflict. The Congolese government, in turn, has been pushing for a stronger stance from the US to stop what it describes as Rwanda's predation of its resources. The US sanctions are seen as an important step in this regard, and many in DR Congo hope that the US government will take a harder line against Rwanda, possibly using the mining deal as leverage to bring Kigali to the negotiating table. Governance and transparency concerns. While the proposed mining deal holds significant promise, it also raises numerous governance concerns. Jean-Pierre Okenda, an expert on the mining sector in DR Congo, has voiced concerns about the potential lack of transparency in the negotiations. In particular, he worries that the deal could primarily serve the interests of the ruling elite rather than benefiting the Congolese people. There are fears that such an agreement could bypass the proper channels of democratic oversight, such as parliamentary review, and instead be conducted in secret behind closed doors. Further complicating matters is the long-standing influence of China in DR Congo's mining sector. Chinese companies control a significant portion of DR Congo's mining operations, particularly in the cobalt-rich southeastern regions. Tshisekedi's outreach to the US is thus seen by some as a strategic move to diversify DR Congo's partnerships, distancing the country from its heavy reliance on China. However, this shift in allegiance could also signal the beginning of a diplomatic recalibration as Tshisekedi balances the interests of both Beijing and Washington. Regional implications in Africa-wide comparison. The situation in DR Congo is not isolated. It is emblematic of broader trends in Africa, where natural resources are often a source of both economic opportunity and political conflict. Across the continent, countries rich in resources such as oil, gas, and minerals often face the challenge of managing these assets in ways that benefit their populations. From Nigeria's oil disputes in the Niger Delta to the ongoing conflict in Sudan over gold mines, Africa's natural resources have frequently been a source of both prosperity and turmoil. In this context, the proposed US-DR Congo mining deal represents both an opportunity and a risk. It could provide DR Congo with much-needed military support and infrastructure development, while also potentially increasing the country's role in the global mineral supply chain. However, it also exposes DR Congo to the potential pitfalls of foreign intervention and exploitation, as seen in other African countries that have entered into resource extraction agreements with external powers. A forward-looking approach, can the US deliver? Looking ahead, the key question is whether the United States can live up to its promises to DR Congo. While the idea of a mining partnership may appeal to both parties, the practical challenges are immense. Congolese officials have expressed optimism about the US's involvement, but the reality is that the US lacks the industrial capacity for metal processing and refining that China possesses. The prospect of American mining companies returning to DR Congo remains uncertain, especially given the sour legacy of past ventures like Freeport-McMoRan's exit in 2016. Moreover, the long-term success of such a partnership will depend not only on the US's ability to deliver on its promises, but also on DR Congo's ability to ensure that any agreements made benefit its citizens. As the world's attention shifts towards securing critical minerals for the green energy transition, DR Congo's role will only become more important. However, the country's ability to navigate these complex geopolitical dynamics will determine whether it can truly capitalize on its vast mineral wealth or fall prey to further exploitation. While the proposed US-Congolese mining deal represents a potentially transformative moment for DR Congo, it must be approached with caution. The complexities of global mineral markets, the geopolitical interests of various powers, and the internal governance challenges faced by DR Congo all need to be carefully considered as the country looks to secure its future. The next steps in these negotiations will likely shape not only DR Congo's future, but also the broader landscape of resource politics in Africa. The role of global powers, a geopolitical tug-of-war. In the broader geopolitical context, the potential US-Congolese mining deal underscores the strategic importance of DR Congo's mineral wealth and its position in the global power struggle. The ongoing conflict in eastern DR Congo and the country's vital mineral resources have placed it at the center of a tug-of-war between various international actors, including China, the United States, and regional powers such as Rwanda. For China, which has long been a key player in DR Congo's mining sector, the proposed deal represents a direct challenge. Chinese companies have secured control of most DR Congo's mining concessions, particularly in cobalt and copper. The mining sector's dominance by Chinese firms has led to mixed reactions within DR Congo, with some local communities frustrated by the lack of investment in infrastructure, labor rights, and environmental protection. Tshisekedi's outreach to the US and Europe, while not signaling a complete departure from China, represents a subtle shift in the government's diplomatic strategy. In recent years, the Congolese president has worked to rebalance DR Congo's relationship with China, seeking more favorable terms and better deals for the Congolese people. The recent renegotiation of the Contract of the Century in 2024, which sought to address some of the grievances about Chinese mining operations, shows Tshisekedi's determination to secure more equitable agreements. However, if the US does enter the scene, the competition between Chinese and American interests in DR Congo's mining sector could intensify. This geopolitical competition could lead to the so-called resource curse, where the influx of foreign investments exacerbates internal corruption, political instability, and the exploitation of local populations. For DR Congo, the challenge will be how to navigate this tension between major global powers while ensuring that it benefits from its mineral wealth. The economic potential of the US-Congolese partnership. While the geopolitical risks are high, the economic opportunities presented by a US-Congolese mining deal could be transformative for DR Congo. As a country with some of the largest mineral reserves globally, DR Congo stands to gain significantly from a well-negotiated deal with the US. Access to American technology, financing, and expertise could help modernize the country's mining sector, increase efficiency, and generate substantial revenues for the government. Moreover, a mining deal with the US could create jobs and stimulate infrastructure development, especially in the transport sector. A deep water port, for example, could facilitate the export of minerals from DR Congo to international markets, improving trade routes and bolstering the country's overall economy. This would also reduce DR Congo's reliance on neighboring countries like Rwanda for the export of its resources, offering greater autonomy in the management of its mineral wealth. For the US, securing a stake in DR Congo's mining sector could enhance its strategic mineral supply chain, especially as the demand for cobalt and lithium continues to rise due to the growing electric vehicle market and other green technologies. American companies could potentially benefit from access to these critical minerals, which would also help the US diversify its sources of these vital resources, reducing dependency on other global players, particularly China. However, as experts like Jean-Pierre Okenda caution, the lack of a clear, structured framework for such a partnership raises significant concerns. Without transparency and proper safeguards, the economic benefits of a deal with the US could be diluted by corruption, mismanagement, and a failure to prioritize the welfare of the Congolese population. The government must ensure that any deal includes provisions for sustainable development, social investment, and environmental protection, which have often been overlooked in the past. The role of civil society and international oversight. Given DR Congo's history of resource exploitation and governance challenges, civil society will play a crucial role in ensuring that any deal with the US remains accountable and transparent. As pointed out by Okenda, the Congolese people should not be excluded from the conversation about how their country's resources are utilized. Any agreement on mineral extraction must be subject to public scrutiny and legislative oversight. In this regard, international organizations and watchdog groups will also have an important role to play. The success of a US-Congolese partnership will depend not only on the willingness of both parties to negotiate in good faith, but also on the ability of international partners, such as the United Nations, to hold the Congolese government accountable for the terms of the deal. While the Congolese government's primary concern is security in the eastern part of the country, it must not lose sight of the long-term economic and social implications of any agreement. The presence of multinational companies in DR Congo's mining sector has often been linked to human rights abuses, environmental degradation, and labor exploitation. Therefore, it is crucial that the government ensures that any new agreements align with international labor standards and environmental regulations. Civil society organizations within DR Congo, including those focused on human rights and environmental protection, must be actively involved in monitoring the mining operations, ensuring that the benefits are shared equitably with local communities and that the negative impacts are mitigated. Regional dynamics and the implications for African diplomacy. The unfolding situation in DR Congo has significant implications for regional diplomacy and the broader African political landscape. DR Congo's ongoing conflict with Rwanda, fueled by competition over natural resources, is a microcosm of the wider struggles over access to Africa's vast mineral wealth. The involvement of global powers like the US and China in these resource disputes highlights the strategic importance of Africa's natural resources and their potential to shape geopolitical alignments in the 21st century. For other African nations, DR Congo's approach to negotiating its mining deals with global powers could serve as both a model and a cautionary tale. Many African countries with rich mineral resources, such as Zambia, Angola, and Zimbabwe, face similar challenges in balancing the interests of foreign investors with the need for sustainable economic development. The DR Congo experience underscores the importance of securing transparent, fair agreements that prioritize long-term national interests over short-term political gain. At the same time, the DR Congo situation presents an opportunity for African unity and solidarity. By collectively addressing issues related to resource management, governance, and foreign intervention, African countries can work to ensure that the continent's natural wealth benefits its people rather than external powers. The African Union and other regional organizations must play an active role in promoting best practices in mineral resource governance and ensuring that African nations have the capacity to negotiate fair and beneficial agreements with foreign powers. Moving forward, the path to stability and prosperity. As DR Congo navigates these complex negotiations, the focus must remain on achieving long-term stability and prosperity for the country and its people. While a mining deal with the US could offer immediate economic benefits, it should not be seen as a panacea for DR Congo's security problems. The Congolese government must ensure that the resources generated from the mining sector are used to address the root causes of conflict, such as poverty, underdevelopment, and lack of infrastructure, which have long fueled violence in the eastern regions. Additionally, the country's governance structures must be strengthened to prevent corruption and ensure that the benefits of resource extraction are equitably distributed. This means empowering local communities, improving transparency, and holding companies accountable for their social and environmental impact. As discussions continue between the US and DR Congo, it remains to be seen whether this proposed mining deal will lead to lasting improvements in the country's security and economic development, or whether it will become another chapter in the complex history of resource exploitation and external influence in Africa. Long-term implications for DR Congo's development and sovereignty. While a mining deal with the US might provide some immediate benefits, including military assistance and economic investment, it is crucial to consider the long-term consequences of such an agreement. DR Congo's sovereignty is at stake, and the country must ensure that any partnership with a foreign power does not undermine its autonomy or exacerbate internal divisions. As the country moves forward, the government will need to develop a clear strategy for managing its mineral wealth in a way that promotes both economic growth and political stability. The risk of foreign companies and governments gaining too much control over DR Congo's mineral resources has been a source of concern for many within the country. The country's mineral wealth could become a curse rather than a blessing if the government becomes too reliant on external powers to secure its economic future. This underscores the importance of a balanced approach that includes strengthening domestic industries, enhancing local capacities, and ensuring that the Congolese people benefit from their own resources. One of the key challenges that DR Congo faces is improving governance structures and reducing corruption. Despite its vast resources, the country has struggled with political instability, corruption, and the mismanagement of its wealth. Transparency will be critical in any agreement, and DR Congo must ensure that it has the institutional frameworks in place to oversee mining operations and ensure that they align with the country's long-term development goals. In this regard, the Congolese people, civil society groups, and international watchdogs must be empowered to monitor and hold the government accountable. The role of global markets and supply chains. The global demand for minerals like cobalt, copper, and lithium has skyrocketed due to the growing reliance on electric vehicles, renewable energy, and advanced electronics. DR Congo's role in the global supply chain for these critical minerals is becoming increasingly important, making it a key player in the future of global energy transitions. This places additional pressure on the Congolese government to make smart decisions that balance economic growth with social responsibility. The mining sector, while lucrative, is also fraught with environmental and social challenges. The rush for mineral extraction can lead to environmental degradation, including deforestation, soil erosion, and water contamination. The Congolese government must implement stringent environmental regulations to ensure that mining operations do not further harm the country's fragile ecosystems. Additionally, the government will need to address the social implications of large-scale mining, including labor rights, local community displacement, and the potential for conflict over land use. The U.S., with its technological and industrial capacity, could play a role in setting higher standards for environmental protection and labor rights in the mining sector. This would be a significant shift from the Chinese-dominated mining sector, where such concerns have often been overlooked. A new mining deal with the U.S. could potentially bring a level of accountability and transparency that has been lacking in past agreements. The global strategic race for critical minerals, DR Congo's rich mineral resources, have made it a prime target in the global race for critical minerals. Countries like China, the US, and even the European Union are looking to secure access to these resources in order to fuel their own technological and economic growth. However, the competition for these minerals is not without its risks. As various international powers vie for influence in DR Congo, the country could become a battleground for geopolitical rivalries that may spill over into its domestic politics. For the United States, this deal is not just about securing mineral resources, but also about countering China's growing influence in Africa. With China having secured significant control over DR Congo's mining operations, the U.S. is looking to reassert itself in the region. This competition between the U.S. and China has broader implications for Africa, where many countries are caught between competing global interests. The strategic importance of DR Congo in this context cannot be overstated. With the world's demand for electric vehicles, clean energy, and electronics expected to continue to grow, the country's mineral wealth will remain a critical resource for global economic and technological development. As DR Congo engages with the US, China, and other global powers, it must navigate this competition carefully to avoid becoming a pawn in larger geopolitical struggles. Regional and continental implications for Africa. The proposed US-Congolese mining deal has broader implications for the African continent. If successful, the agreement could serve as a model for other African nations with rich mineral resources, such as Zambia, Angola, and Guinea. However, it also raises questions about the role of foreign powers in Africa's resource management. Should Africa continue to rely on external actors for investment in its mining sector, or should it develop its own capacity to manage and exploit its natural resources? African countries have long struggled with the resource curse, where mineral wealth has led to corruption, conflict, and economic mismanagement. To avoid these pitfalls, African nations must work together to strengthen their institutional capacities, improve governance, and ensure that the benefits of mineral extraction are equitably shared among their populations. The African Union, AU, and regional organizations such as the Economic Community of Central African States, ECCAS, could play an important role in promoting best practices in resource management and helping member states negotiate fair deals with foreign partners. The issue of resource sovereignty will continue to be a hot topic across the continent. DR Congo's approach to managing its mineral wealth and its relationships with external powers will likely influence how other African nations navigate their own resource challenges. If DR Congo succeeds in negotiating a deal that benefits its people while balancing the interests of external actors, it could pave the way for a new era of resource governance in Africa, where countries are able to harness their mineral wealth for the benefit of their populations, rather than allowing it to become a source of conflict and exploitation. Looking ahead, opportunities and risks. The negotiations between DR Congo and the United States over the proposed mining deal are still in their infancy, and much remains to be seen about how the agreement will take shape. While the potential benefits for DR Congo are substantial, the risks are equally significant. The country's leadership will need to ensure that the deal is transparent, equitable, and beneficial to the Congolese people, rather than serving the interests of a few elites or foreign powers. At the same time, the U.S. must demonstrate its commitment to long-term engagement in DR Congo, not just in terms of securing access to minerals, but also in terms of supporting the country's broader development. This includes investing in infrastructure, education, healthcare, and governance reforms, which are essential for building a more stable and prosperous DR Congo. As the negotiations continue, it will be important for the Congolese people, civil society organizations, and international stakeholders to remain engaged in the process, ensuring that any agreement made is in line with DR Congo's long-term goals of peace, stability, and economic development. The proposed US-Congolese mining deal represents a critical moment in DR Congo's history, one that could shape the country's future for generations to come. As the country navigates the complex world of global resource politics, it must remain vigilant and focused on securing a deal that benefits its people, protects its sovereignty, and paves the way for a more prosperous and stable future. The Congolese people and civil society, a voice in the negotiations. As DR Congo continues to explore the possibility of a US-Congolese mining agreement, it is vital that the voices of the Congolese people and civil society are heard. The ongoing conflict in the eastern part of the country has already resulted in significant suffering for the population, particularly in terms of displacement, loss of life, and the exploitation of natural resources. Many Congolese people have long felt sidelined by foreign investments, with little to show for the country's vast mineral wealth beyond environmental degradation and underdevelopment. For this reason, the Congolese people must be an integral part of the conversation surrounding the potential mining deal. Civil society organizations, human rights groups, and community leaders must be consulted and actively involved in the negotiation process. This could take the form of public consultations, parliamentary hearings, and the establishment of oversight bodies to monitor the implementation of any agreements. Involving local communities in the decision-making process will also help ensure that mining operations align with the needs and interests of the population. For instance, employment opportunities for local people, community development initiatives, and environmental protections must be prioritized in any agreements. Moreover, the Congolese government should commit to using any revenues from the mining deal to fund social programs such as education, healthcare, and infrastructure development to improve the quality of life for its citizens. The Congolese government has already faced criticism for a lack of transparency and accountability in its dealings with foreign investors, especially when it comes to the mining sector. To rebuild trust and ensure that the country's resources benefit all Congolese people, a future mining deal with the U.S. should include provisions for public accountability, anti-corruption measures, and the active involvement of civil society in monitoring the implementation of the agreement. A cautionary tale from Africa's resource-rich countries. The situation in DR Congo is not unique. Across Africa, many rich resource nations have faced similar challenges when it comes to managing their mineral wealth. From Nigeria's oil-rich Niger Delta to Zambia's copper belt, The continent's vast natural resources have often been a source of conflict, corruption, and exploitation. In some cases, foreign powers and multinational corporations have been complicit in exacerbating these issues, securing favorable deals that benefit external actors rather than the local populations. For example, in countries like Guinea, Mali, and Sierra Leone, foreign companies have long controlled large portions of the mining industry, with limited local investment or economic development in return. This has fueled resentment, exacerbated poverty, and led to widespread public distrust of government institutions. In response to these issues, some African nations have attempted to rethink their approach to resource management. For instance, Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Ghana have been exploring ways to diversify their economies and ensure that the benefits of mining and natural resource extraction are more widely shared. These efforts include revising mining codes, strengthening regulatory frameworks, and pushing for greater local participation in the mining process. DR Congo, given its vast mineral wealth and complex geopolitical situation, has much to learn from these other African countries. The challenge lies in balancing the need for foreign investment and expertise with the imperative to protect the interests of local communities and ensure that the country's resources are used sustainably and responsibly. If DR Congo can successfully navigate this challenge, it could serve as a model for other African nations grappling with similar issues. Potential impact on regional stability and security. The potential mining deal between DR Congo and the United States could have significant implications not only for the country itself, but also for the wider Great Lakes region. The ongoing conflict in eastern DR Congo, fueled by the M23 rebels and supported by Rwanda, has destabilized an already fragile region. The involvement of external powers in DR Congo's mineral sector may have both positive and negative consequences for regional stability. On the one hand, the US's support for the Congolese government could help strengthen its position in the face of the M23 insurgency. Military assistance, training, and equipment could bolster the Congolese army's ability to protect its territory and resources from foreign-backed militias. Additionally, a stronger military presence in the region could potentially deter further exploitation of DR Congo's mineral wealth by armed groups. On the other hand, increased foreign involvement in DR Congo's resources could exacerbate tensions between neighboring countries, particularly Rwanda. Rwanda's involvement in DR Congo's internal affairs has long been a source of contention, and any attempt by the US to counterbalance Rwanda's influence by supporting the Congolese government could escalate the conflict. This could lead to further instability in the Great Lakes region, where ethnic and political tensions are already high. The role of international organizations, such as the African Union, AU, and the United Nations, UN, will be critical in preventing the situation from spiraling further out of control. Diplomatic efforts to mediate between DR Congo, Rwanda, and other regional actors will be necessary to ensure that any agreement between DR Congo and the US does not lead to unintended consequences that destabilize the region. Moreover, DR Congo's security concerns must be addressed in a way that ensures the protection of its people and resources without fostering greater militarization. While international support can provide much-needed security assistance, it must be accompanied by efforts to address the root causes of conflict, including poverty, inequality, and governance issues. The role of China and other international players. While the focus of the current negotiations is on a potential deal between DR Congo and the United States, it is impossible to ignore the role that China continues to play in the country's mining sector. China has been DR Congo's largest trading partner for many years and controls a significant portion of the country's mining operations. Despite the growing interest in Western investment, DR Congo's reliance on Chinese companies remains a significant factor in the country's economic landscape. The proposed US-Congolese mining deal could have important implications for China's involvement in DR Congo. If the US successfully enters the mining sector and secures favorable agreements, it could diminish China's influence in the country. However, this is unlikely to result in a complete shift away from China, as many Chinese companies have established deep roots in DR Congo's mining industry. The Congolese government will need to carefully balance its relationships with both the US and China, ensuring that it does not alienate either side while securing the best possible deals for its people. In addition to the US and China, other international actors, such as European Union countries and multinational corporations, may also seek a stake in DR Congo's mining sector. The competition for access to the country's mineral wealth will intensify in the coming years as global demand for critical minerals continues to rise. DR Congo's ability to negotiate fair and balanced agreements with these external actors will determine whether its mineral resources can contribute to sustainable development or whether they will be exploited for the benefit of foreign powers. The path to sustainable resource governance. Ultimately, the future of DR Congo's mining sector depends on the government's ability to negotiate fair deals with foreign powers while ensuring that the benefits of its mineral wealth are shared equitably with its people. This will require a shift towards more sustainable and transparent resource governance, with an emphasis on long-term economic development rather than short-term political gain. To achieve this, DR Congo must strengthen its institutions, improve transparency, and tackle corruption within the mining sector. The country will also need to prioritize environmental protection and ensure that mining operations are conducted in a way that minimizes harm to local ecosystems and communities. This can be done by enforcing stronger environmental regulations, requiring companies to invest in local infrastructure and development projects, and ensuring that the rights of workers are protected. For the international community, this may mean shifting away from a focus solely on securing access to DR Congo's mineral resources and towards a more comprehensive approach that considers the country's broader development goals. This approach should prioritize building local capacity, supporting education and healthcare, and creating opportunities for the Congolese people to benefit from the resources extracted from their land. As DR Congo moves forward with its negotiations and potential agreements, the challenge will be to ensure that any deals made do not repeat the mistakes of the past, but instead lay the foundation for a more equitable, prosperous, and stable future for the country and the broader African continent. Strengthening DR Congo's institutional capacity for any mining agreement to be successful and sustainable, DR Congo must prioritize building its institutional capacity. Over the years, weak governance, corruption, and a lack of regulatory oversight have allowed foreign companies to exploit the country's mineral resources without providing significant benefits to local populations. The Congolese government must overhaul its institutions to ensure that the mining sector operates transparently, efficiently, and in the best interests of the Congolese people. One of the key challenges DR Congo faces is the lack of an effective regulatory framework to manage its mining sector. While the country's mining code has undergone revisions in the past, the enforcement of regulations remains inconsistent. The government must ensure that it has the necessary legal and regulatory mechanisms in place to hold mining companies accountable for their actions. This includes ensuring that environmental standards are met, workers are treated fairly, and that the revenues from mineral extraction are used to benefit the broader economy rather than being siphoned off by corrupt elites. Strengthening institutions also means enhancing the capacity of government ministries responsible for the mining sector, such as the Ministry of Mines and the National Mining Registry. These bodies must have the resources and expertise needed to oversee mining operations, negotiate contracts with foreign investors, and monitor the social and environmental impacts of mining activities. This will require significant investment in human capital, as well as the establishment of robust systems for transparency and accountability. Furthermore, the role of local governments and communities in the management of natural resources should not be overlooked. Given the historical concentration of power in Kinshasa, the central government has often sidelined local populations in mining decisions. Local authorities and communities should be empowered to have a say in the management of resources in their regions. This could take the form of local consultations, joint decision-making processes, and mechanisms for sharing the economic benefits of mining at the community level. The role of international partnerships. While DR Congo's domestic capacity building is critical, the international community also has a significant role to play in helping the country develop its mining sector responsibly. The international community, including the United Nations, World Bank, and other regional organizations, can provide technical assistance, share best practices, and help strengthen regulatory frameworks. International aid and partnerships should be aimed at improving transparency in the mining sector, strengthening governance, and ensuring that the country's resources are managed sustainably. Additionally, international companies and investors must adopt more responsible business practices. Many multinational corporations operating in DR Congo have faced criticism for their lack of environmental stewardship, failure to respect workers' rights, and inadequate engagement with local communities. To avoid repeating past mistakes, companies should be encouraged to adopt the principles of the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, EITI, and commit to responsible sourcing of minerals. This would not only improve DR Congo's reputation on the global stage, but also help foster a more sustainable and equitable mining sector. For the U.S., as it looks to expand its involvement in DR Congo's mining industry, there is an opportunity to lead by example. The U.S. has a vested interest in ensuring that its mining companies adhere to high standards of environmental protection, labor rights, and corporate social responsibility. By setting the bar for responsible mining practices, the U.S. could help reshape the global mining landscape, ensuring that future mineral extraction in DR Congo is done in a way that benefits both the country and its people. The future of US-Congolese relations, a test of diplomacy. The proposed mining deal between DR Congo and the United States is more than just a business transaction. It is a test of the U.S.'s diplomatic engagement in Africa. DR Congo, with its vast mineral wealth and strategic importance, is an increasingly vital partner for both the U.S. and China. As the U.S. looks to counter China's growing influence in Africa, it must balance its economic and geopolitical interests with a genuine commitment to supporting DR Congo's development. While the proposed partnership could bring much-needed investments and security assistance to DR Congo, it also presents a significant diplomatic challenge. The U.S. must navigate the complexities of regional rivalries, including the long-standing tension between DR Congo and Rwanda, and avoid exacerbating conflicts in the Great Lakes region. It is critical that the U.S. approach to DR Congo does not come at the expense of regional stability. Moreover, the U.S. must be prepared to go beyond the mining deal and support broader efforts to address the root causes of instability in DR Congo. This means working with international partners, including the African Union, to promote peace and security in the region, while also addressing issues such as poverty, corruption, and human rights abuses. The U.S. must be seen as a genuine partner in DR Congo's long-term development, not just as a competitor in the global race for critical minerals. Balancing economic development and human rights. The overarching goal of any mining deal in DR Congo should be to balance economic development with the protection of human rights. The country's mineral wealth has the potential to be a powerful driver of economic growth, but this must not come at the expense of the Congolese people's well-being. A focus on sustainable development, worker rights, and environmental protection will be essential to ensuring that the benefits of mining are shared equitably and that the country's rich natural resources are not exploited for the benefit of a few. One of the key human rights issues that must be addressed is the treatment of workers in the mining sector. Many of the mines in DR Congo, particularly in the southeastern region, are notorious for poor working conditions, low wages, and child labor. If DR Congo is to attract responsible foreign investment, it must ensure that the rights of workers are protected and that mining companies adhere to international labor standards. Additionally, mining operations must be conducted in a way that minimizes environmental damage. The extraction of minerals like cobalt, copper, and coltan can have severe environmental consequences, including deforestation, soil erosion, and water contamination. It is crucial that mining companies are held accountable for their environmental impact and that they invest in sustainable practices to mitigate the damage caused by their activities. Looking toward a post-COVID economy, economic resilience in DR Congo, As DR Congo moves forward with these negotiations and mining partnerships, it is important to consider the broader context of global economic recovery in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic has exacerbated existing economic challenges in DR Congo, including poverty, inequality, and limited access to essential services. The economic recovery of the country will depend on a diversified and resilient economy, where mining plays a role but is not the sole driver of growth. To ensure a sustainable post-pandemic recovery, DR Congo should focus on building other sectors of the economy, such as agriculture, manufacturing, and services. Investments in education, healthcare, and infrastructure will also be critical to improving the quality of life for Congolese citizens and reducing dependence on foreign aid. A more diversified economy would help buffer DR Congo from the fluctuations in global commodity prices and create new opportunities for local businesses and communities. Furthermore, regional economic integration could play a significant role in DR Congo's economic future. By working closely with neighboring countries, DR Congo can expand its trade ties, improve regional infrastructure, and strengthen economic cooperation. This would help DR Congo reduce its reliance on external powers and create a more resilient economy that can weather global challenges, including economic slowdowns and geopolitical tensions. The path forward for DR Congo. The proposed US-Congolese mining deal is a crucial moment for DR Congo. If successfully negotiated, it could provide the country with the resources and support needed to combat insurgency, improve infrastructure, and foster economic growth. However, the success of such a deal will depend on how well the Congolese government manages its relationships with external powers, ensures transparency, and includes the Congolese people in the decision-making process. Ultimately, the key to DR Congo's future lies in the responsible management of its resources and its ability to build strong, accountable institutions that can promote sustainable development and regional stability. While the mining deal with the U.S. presents significant opportunities, it must be part of a broader strategy that prioritizes peace, governance, and the well-being of the Congolese people. As the negotiations continue, the world will be watching closely to see if DR Congo can strike a deal that secures its future while protecting its sovereignty and its people's rights. The potential for a more stable, prosperous, and self-reliant DR Congo is within reach, but only if the country can navigate the complex interplay of global powers and domestic challenges in a way that benefits its citizens and contributes to regional peace and stability. The challenge of ensuring long-term political stability. As DR Congo pursues a mining deal with the U.S., it must also address the broader issue of political stability. The political landscape in DR Congo has been marked by cycles of instability, conflict, and poor governance, factors that have hindered the country's development. While securing a mining deal with the U.S. could provide an immediate boost, DR Congo's long-term stability will depend on the political maturity of its institutions and leadership. One of the key factors contributing to political instability in DR Congo is the concentration of power in the hands of a few elites. To ensure that the benefits of any mining agreement are distributed equitably, DR Congo's government must foster more inclusive political processes and decentralize power. This would empower local communities to take part in decision-making processes related to their resources, making them active participants in shaping their future. The Congolese people have long struggled with a lack of trust in their government, and one of the most pressing challenges facing the Tshisekedi administration is to rebuild this trust. The government will need to demonstrate that it is committed to transparency, accountability, and the protection of the public good, not just the interests of the ruling class. Strong democratic institutions and an independent judiciary are essential in holding government officials accountable and ensuring that mining revenues are used for the benefit of the people rather than enriching a select few. To strengthen political stability, DR Congo's government must also address the root causes of conflict, including poverty, inequality, and the lack of access to basic services. Development efforts should not only focus on securing military support and mining investments, but should also prioritize social programs that improve the quality of life for ordinary Congolese. This includes investments in healthcare, education, infrastructure, and social welfare programs that help reduce the disparities between the country's rich and poor. Balancing foreign influence with sovereignty. One of the key concerns in any deal between DR Congo and external powers is the delicate balance between benefiting from foreign investments and protecting the country's sovereignty. As DR Congo continues to engage with global powers like the US and China, the country must ensure that it does not become overly dependent on foreign interests, which could compromise its independence and decision-making ability. In recent years, many African countries have struggled to assert their sovereignty in the face of foreign intervention, especially in the realm of resource extraction. DR Congo's challenge will be to strike a balance between securing foreign investment and maintaining control over its resources. This will require robust legal frameworks, strong regulatory bodies, and a commitment to fair, transparent negotiations that prioritize national interests above foreign agendas. The Congolese government must ensure that any deals made with the US or other international players do not result in the loss of control over key national assets. To that end, DR Congo should work to ensure that foreign companies or governments involved in resource extraction adhere to the country's laws and contribute to the long-term development of local communities. Additionally, DR Congo should seek to diversify its international partners, rather than relying too heavily on one country or bloc. This will help safeguard the country's sovereignty and ensure that it can navigate the complex global political landscape without becoming beholden to any one foreign power. The economic potential of resource diversification. While the mining sector is undoubtedly a key driver of DR Congo's economic future, the country must also look to diversify its economy to avoid becoming overly reliant on natural resources. The global market for minerals is volatile, and overdependence on mining could expose DR Congo to economic shocks if prices fluctuate or demand for certain minerals declines. Diversification will require investments in other sectors of the economy, such as agriculture, manufacturing, and services. DR Congo has vast agricultural potential, with fertile land and a favorable climate that could support the growth of a range of crops, including coffee, cocoa, and palm oil. By focusing on developing its agricultural sector, DR Congo can create jobs, boost food security, and reduce its reliance on mineral exports. The manufacturing sector also holds significant potential for DR Congo, particularly in areas related to mineral processing and value-added production. While the country currently exports raw minerals, it could capture a larger share of the global value chain by investing in infrastructure and technologies that allow it to process minerals domestically. This would not only create more jobs, but also increase the value of DR Congo's exports, contributing to its overall economic development. Additionally, the services sector, particularly tourism, finance, and telecommunications, could offer new sources of revenue and employment. With a young and growing population, DR Congo has the potential to become a hub for entrepreneurship and innovation, particularly in sectors related to technology and digital services. By fostering a more diverse economy, DR Congo can build resilience to external shocks and reduce the vulnerability of its people to global commodity price fluctuations. Regional cooperation and the role of the African Union. As DR Congo looks to secure its future through strategic mining deals and development partnerships, it must also strengthen its ties with its neighbors and regional organizations. The African Union, AU, and the Economic Community of Central African States, ECCAS, can play a vital role in helping DR Congo navigate its security challenges and manage its resource wealth. By working together with other African countries, DR Congo can build regional solidarity and promote stability across the Great Lakes region. In particular, the AU can help mediate tensions between DR Congo and Rwanda, facilitating dialogue and promoting a peaceful resolution to the ongoing conflict in eastern DR Congo. The AU has long played an important role in conflict resolution across the continent, and its involvement in the DR Congo situation could help prevent the conflict from escalating further. Additionally, The AU can help ensure that any mining deals between DR Congo and external powers are in line with broader regional goals for sustainable development. By promoting good governance, transparency, and responsible resource management across Africa, the AU can help create a more favorable environment for investments that benefit local populations and foster long-term growth. Engaging with the global community, lessons from other African countries. As DR Congo embarks on its negotiations with the US and other international players, it can draw lessons from the experiences of other African nations that have faced similar challenges. Countries like Botswana, Ghana, and Namibia have successfully leveraged their natural resources for development by implementing sound governance practices, promoting transparency, and ensuring that the benefits of resource extraction are shared with their citizens. Botswana stands out as a success story in resource management. Through its partnership with De Beers, Botswana has used its diamond wealth to fund education, healthcare, and infrastructure projects, transforming the country into one of Africa's most stable and prosperous nations. Similarly, Ghana has worked to diversify its economy by investing in agriculture, manufacturing, and services, using its gold revenues to promote broader development. By studying the successes of these countries, DR Congo can develop a more nuanced approach to managing its mineral wealth and securing foreign investment. This means adopting best practices in governance, ensuring that resource extraction benefits the population, and promoting sustainable development practices that protect the environment. The role of transparency and accountability. The success of DR Congo's future mining deals will hinge largely on transparency and accountability. The country's history of corruption and mismanagement in the mining sector has undermined trust in the government and left many Congolese people feeling excluded from the benefits of their country's vast natural wealth. For any agreement to succeed, DR Congo must commit to full transparency in the negotiation process and ensure that mining revenues are used to benefit its citizens. This requires the establishment of robust oversight mechanisms, including independent audits, public reporting of revenue, and the active participation of civil society organizations. The government must also ensure that mining contracts are made publicly available so that citizens can scrutinize them and hold the authorities accountable. At the same time, DR Congo must also improve its legal framework to combat corruption within the mining sector. This includes strengthening anti-corruption institutions, improving the capacity of the judiciary to handle corruption cases, and increasing penalties for those found guilty of misappropriating public funds. By ensuring that the mining sector operates with integrity, DR Congo can build trust among its citizens and create a more favorable environment for both foreign investors and local communities. The role of the private sector in DR Congo's economic transformation. In addition to government-led initiatives and international support, the private sector has a significant role to play in DR Congo's development. While the country's mining sector is currently dominated by foreign companies, local businesses must also be empowered to participate in the economic transformation. DR Congo's private sector, though underdeveloped, holds substantial potential for growth, particularly in industries such as agriculture, technology, and services. One of the key challenges for the private sector in DR Congo is the lack of access to capital and markets. To address this, the government must create an environment conducive to entrepreneurship by reducing bureaucratic red tape, offering incentives for local businesses, and improving access to financing. This could be done through partnerships with development banks, international investors, and private equity firms that specialize in supporting emerging economies. Additionally, improving infrastructure is critical for the growth of the private sector. DR Congo's road networks, energy supply, and telecommunication systems are underdeveloped, making it difficult for businesses to operate efficiently. By investing in these key areas, the government can unlock the potential of the private sector, create jobs, and foster local innovation. To ensure that the benefits of economic growth are spread equitably, the Congolese government should also support the development of small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs. SMEs play a critical role in job creation and poverty reduction. Yet many entrepreneurs in DR Congo face challenges such as limited access to markets, financing, and training. Targeted programs that provide mentorship, access to credit, and capacity building could help these businesses thrive and contribute to a more diversified economy. A regional vision for DR Congo's growth. Linking resources to regional prosperity. DR Congo's vast natural resources are not only valuable on a global scale, but also crucial to the economic development of the entire Central African region. As a landlocked country, DR Congo relies heavily on its neighbors for trade routes and access to international markets. This reality makes regional cooperation and integration key to unlocking the full potential of DR Congo's economy. In this regard, the development of regional infrastructure should be a priority. The construction of highways, railroads, and energy grids that link DR Congo to its neighboring countries, such as Zambia, Angola, and Rwanda, will facilitate the efficient movement of goods and services and reduce the costs of trade. By improving regional transport links, DR Congo can establish itself as a critical hub for regional trade, attracting investment and increasing its competitiveness in global markets. Furthermore, DR Congo should work with neighboring countries to create a regional strategy for resource management. This could involve coordinating mining practices, establishing joint regulatory frameworks, and sharing best practices in resource extraction. A regional approach to resource management could help prevent the exploitation of natural resources by foreign powers and ensure that the benefits of mining are more evenly distributed across the region. Regional cooperation can also be vital in addressing the security concerns that have plagued DR Congo's eastern provinces. The presence of armed groups and the ongoing conflict with Rwanda have destabilized the region, and a coordinated regional response is necessary to bring peace to the area. DR Congo, along with its neighbors, should work within the framework of the African Union and regional organizations such as the East African Community, EAC, to address the root causes of conflict and promote long-term stability. Environmental sustainability in mining, DR Congo's responsibility. As DR Congo seeks to develop its mining sector, environmental sustainability must be a central consideration. Mining activities, particularly in the extraction of cobalt, copper, and lithium, can have severe environmental consequences, such as deforestation, soil erosion, and water contamination. These impacts not only harm the environment, but also affect local communities that depend on natural resources for their livelihoods. DR Congo must implement stronger environmental regulations to ensure that mining operations do not cause long-term harm to the environment. This includes setting up monitoring systems to track environmental damage, enforcing penalties for non-compliance, and requiring companies to invest in environmental restoration efforts. Additionally, the government should encourage the use of green technologies in mining, such as more energy-efficient equipment and processes that reduce emissions and waste. International stakeholders, including foreign investors and international organizations, also have a responsibility to ensure that mining operations are environmentally sustainable. Companies involved in mining in DR Congo must adhere to international environmental standards and take steps to mitigate the environmental impact of their activities. In turn, the international community must hold companies accountable for their environmental practices, using tools such as corporate social responsibility, CSR reports, and independent audits to track compliance. By prioritizing environmental sustainability, DR Congo can ensure that its mining sector contributes to the country's long-term economic and environmental health. Additionally, by adopting green mining practices, DR Congo can enhance its reputation on the global stage, attracting responsible investors who are committed to sustainability. International legal frameworks, a call for global governance. The potential for DR Congo to secure a more equitable deal with the US or other international partners highlights the need for stronger global governance in the extractive industries sector. Many African countries, including DR Congo, have been at the mercy of exploitative agreements with multinational corporations that have not benefited local populations or the environment. To prevent this, global frameworks for the regulation of natural resources should be strengthened. International bodies such as the United Nations, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund, IMF, must work together to create frameworks that promote responsible resource management, human rights, and environmental protection. These frameworks should require countries to adhere to international standards of transparency, labor rights, and environmental sustainability in their resource extraction industries. Additionally, global initiatives such as the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, EITI, provide a model for how transparency and accountability can be incorporated into the management of natural resources. DR Congo's involvement in such initiatives could improve the transparency of its mining sector, attract responsible investors, and ensure that the country's resources are managed in a way that benefits its citizens. The international community should also provide technical assistance to DR Congo and other resource-rich African countries, helping them build the capacity to negotiate better deals with foreign investors. This could include providing training for government officials in contract negotiation, regulatory oversight, and environmental management. By strengthening its negotiating power and institutional capacity, DR Congo can secure better deals for its people and ensure that its resources are managed responsibly. The global race for critical minerals. DR Congo's strategic position. As the world transitions to cleaner energy and technology, the demand for critical minerals such as cobalt, lithium, and copper is expected to increase exponentially. DR Congo, with its vast mineral reserves, is strategically positioned to play a key role in meeting this demand. However, this also means that DR Congo is at the center of a global race for resources, with major powers such as the US, China, and the European Union all vying for access to the country's minerals. This increased demand presents both opportunities and challenges for DR Congo. On the one hand, the country has the potential to leverage its mineral wealth to drive economic growth, attract foreign investment, and increase its role in the global supply chain for critical minerals. On the other hand, the rush for resources could lead to exploitation, environmental degradation, and the further entrenchment of corruption and poor governance. DR Congo must carefully navigate this global competition, ensuring that it does not fall victim to a resource curse. The key to avoiding this outcome will be developing a robust and transparent framework for managing its mineral resources, strengthening its institutions, and ensuring that the benefits of mining are shared equitably among the population. By doing so, DR Congo can not only secure its position as a global supplier of critical minerals, but also build a more diversified, sustainable, and prosperous economy that benefits its people and contributes to regional stability. Building a resilient and diversified economy in DR Congo. The future of DR Congo's mining sector must go together with a broader vision for economic diversification. Although mining is undoubtedly a critical industry for the country, it cannot be the sole engine of economic growth. DR Congo must shift away from an over-reliance on resource extraction and work toward developing other sectors that can contribute to sustainable growth and economic stability. One of the most significant opportunities for diversification lies in agriculture. DR Congo possesses vast tracts of arable land that, if managed sustainably, could support large-scale agricultural production. The potential for growing crops such as cassava, maize, and palm oil are immense. Additionally, DR Congo has the capacity to expand its agro-processing industries, adding value to raw agricultural products and creating jobs in rural areas. Such initiatives could help reduce rural poverty, improve food security, and provide a steady income to thousands of smallholder farmers. The government could also explore alternative sources of income and innovation within the tech and service sectors. Given the country's large youth population and rising digital literacy, technology and innovation could become key drivers of economic growth. Supporting local tech startups, boosting digital infrastructure, and providing access to capital for young entrepreneurs could stimulate innovation in sectors such as fintech, e-commerce, and digital services. Tourism is another sector with immense untapped potential. DR Congo is home to rich biodiversity, vast rainforests, and national parks like Virunga, which hosts the critically endangered mountain gorilla. With the right infrastructure and investment, DR Congo could develop a thriving ecotourism industry, attracting visitors from around the world. This would not only create jobs, but also generate foreign exchange and promote environmental conservation. However, economic diversification will only be possible if the government tackles several systemic challenges. Key among these is the need for improved infrastructure. Roads, railways, electricity, and internet connectivity are all vital for ensuring that DR Congo can support a diversified economy. Without these critical building blocks, industries like agriculture, manufacturing, and services will struggle to grow. Additionally, fostering a business-friendly environment is essential to attracting both local and foreign investment in sectors outside of mining. This will require continued regulatory reform, the establishment of industrial parks, and the implementation of policies that protect local businesses while making it easier for foreign companies to operate. Education and workforce development for a new economy. A critical component of DR Congo's long-term success in diversifying its economy is investing in human capital. Education and skills development will be fundamental to equipping the country's youth with the tools they need to thrive in an evolving global economy. At present, DR Congo faces significant challenges in education, with low literacy rates and inadequate access to quality schooling, especially in rural areas. To ensure that the workforce is prepared for a diversified economy, the government must prioritize educational reforms. This includes improving primary and secondary education, expanding vocational and technical training programs, and strengthening higher education institutions. By equipping young people with the skills needed for jobs in agriculture, manufacturing, technology, and services, DR Congo can create a more resilient workforce that is not dependent on the mining sector alone. In addition to education, there needs to be a greater focus on entrepreneurship and innovation. Given the global rise of startups and small businesses, DR Congo must encourage a culture of entrepreneurship among its youth. This could be achieved through initiatives that provide mentorship, training, and funding for young entrepreneurs, particularly in technology and agribusiness. The government can also work with international organizations to create incubators and accelerators that support innovative businesses. The development of technical skills, such as engineering, data science, and agricultural technology, will be particularly important for DR Congo's efforts to modernize its economy. By fostering a skilled workforce, the country will be better equipped to manage its resource sector sustainably, improve its infrastructure, and drive innovation in other areas of the economy. Strengthening social safety nets and reducing inequality. While DR Congo works to diversify its economy, it must also ensure that its development benefits all segments of society, particularly the most vulnerable. The country has some of the highest levels of inequality in the world, with significant gaps in income, access to services, and social opportunities. The disparity between urban and rural populations is especially pronounced, with rural areas often lacking basic infrastructure, healthcare, and educational opportunities. A comprehensive social safety net will be critical to reducing inequality and ensuring that the benefits of economic growth are shared more equitably. This could include expanding access to healthcare, particularly maternal and child health services, and providing subsidies for education to ensure that all children, regardless of their background, can access schooling. Additionally, targeted social programs such as cash transfers and housing subsidies could help lift the most vulnerable populations out of poverty. Job creation will also play a crucial role in reducing inequality. As the country develops its mining sector and diversifies into other industries, creating jobs for the growing population will be essential. While the mining sector can provide direct employment opportunities, Sectors like agriculture, services, and manufacturing could create millions of jobs for young people entering the workforce. The government must ensure that labor rights are upheld and that workers are paid fair wages and have access to social protections. This will help foster a stable, productive workforce and prevent the rise of social unrest due to poor working conditions and lack of opportunities. Promoting regional trade and economic integration. DR Congo's path to economic prosperity is closely linked to regional integration and cooperation. The country's vast mineral wealth, combined with its strategic location at the heart of Africa, positions it as a potential hub for regional trade. However, to realize this potential, DR Congo must strengthen its trade relationships with neighboring countries and be an active participant in regional economic integration initiatives. The African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, represents a unique opportunity for DR Congo to expand its markets, increase trade within the continent, and integrate more fully into the African economy. By reducing trade barriers and improving transport and logistics infrastructure, DR Congo can increase its exports and become a critical link in regional value chains. Regional cooperation also extends to security. The conflict in eastern DR Congo, fueled by rebel groups and external interventions, has disrupted trade and undermined regional economic stability. For DR Congo to fully benefit from its resources, it must work with its neighbors to ensure peace and stability in the region. This will require collaborative security measures, including joint military operations, border security, and peace-building efforts. A strong regional economic partnership will also help DR Congo attract more foreign investment, particularly in sectors outside of mining. By improving relations with its neighbors and fostering a more stable regional environment, DR Congo can create a more favorable climate for international companies looking to invest in infrastructure, manufacturing, and technology. A vision for a prosperous DR Congo. The proposed US-Congolese mining deal is only one piece of the puzzle in DR Congo's quest for development. While such a deal could offer immediate benefits in terms of military support and foreign investment, the country's long-term success will depend on its ability to build a diversified, resilient economy that benefits all its citizens. This will require a comprehensive strategy that focuses not only on resource extraction, but also on human capital development, infrastructure, regional cooperation, and the promotion of sustainable industries. DR Congo's vast mineral wealth gives it the potential to become a key player in the global economy. However, without the right governance, accountability, and focus on the welfare of its people, the country risks falling into the same trap of exploitation that has plagued many resource-rich nations. The future of DR Congo depends on its ability to negotiate fair, transparent deals with foreign powers while ensuring that its resources are managed responsibly and sustainably for the benefit of future generations. As the country moves forward with its mining negotiations and broader economic development plans, it must keep in mind the lessons of the past and commit to building a more inclusive, prosperous, and stable future for all Congolese. The path ahead is fraught with challenges, but with the right leadership, governance, and international cooperation, DR Congo can transform its resources into a force for sustainable development and regional peace. The path forward, charting a new course for DR Congo. DR Congo's journey toward economic development and stability is not just about securing international deals or exploiting its natural resources. It's about taking charge of its own destiny, leveraging its immense potential, and ensuring that the country can stand on its own feet in the global arena. To achieve this, the government must continue to implement reforms that foster a more inclusive political system, reduce corruption, and ensure the responsible management of its resources. The steps toward building a resilient, diversified economy, investing in human capital, and prioritizing transparency and good governance will be the cornerstone of DR Congo's future. As DR Congo's leaders seek partnerships with global powers, they must not lose sight of the broader vision of long-term development. It is not enough to secure a mining deal today if it doesn't contribute to the country's broader social, economic, and political stability tomorrow. The economic challenges of DR Congo are certainly daunting, but they are not insurmountable. The country can draw on the lessons of other African nations that have navigated similar challenges, using them as models for how to successfully diversify and grow. DR Congo's abundant resources, if harnessed properly, can become a powerful catalyst for development across Africa, providing a template for resource-rich countries on the continent. Advice to African leaders. For Africa as a whole, DR Congo's experience offers critical lessons about the delicate balance between resource exploitation and responsible governance. As African leaders look to harness the continent's vast natural wealth, they must recognize the importance of transparency, accountability, and the involvement of local communities in decision-making processes. Economic partnerships, whether with the US, China, or any other global power, must be approached cautiously, with a focus on long-term benefits for the people rather than short-term political gains. Leaders should also recognize that mineral resources are not just an economic opportunity, but a social and environmental responsibility. Extractive industries should be managed in ways that ensure that communities, particularly those located near mining operations, benefit from job creation, social investments, and infrastructure development. At the same time, environmental sustainability must be at the forefront of any mining deal, ensuring that future generations inherit a healthy, thriving continent. The development of human capital, through education, vocational training, and innovation, must be seen as equally important as resource extraction. Africa's youth are its greatest asset, and investing in their education and entrepreneurial spirit will lead to more diverse economies and sustainable development across the continent. The power of the private sector in this transformation cannot be overstated. It is essential to create environments conducive to business, reduce bureaucratic obstacles, and foster innovation. Summary of key messages. 1. Resource management. African countries like DR Congo must focus on building transparent and accountable systems for managing their natural resources, ensuring that the wealth generated benefits the broader population. 2. Diversification of the economy. While mineral wealth can drive growth, it must be accompanied by a strategy to diversify into sectors like agriculture, technology, manufacturing, and services to avoid over-reliance on resource extraction. 3. Human capital development, investing in education and skills. Development is crucial to creating a workforce capable of supporting diversified industries. African leaders must prioritize human capital as the foundation of future economic success. 4. Environmental sustainability. Economic growth must not come at the expense of the environment. African leaders should implement sustainable mining practices, protect natural resources, and ensure that communities are not harmed by environmental degradation. 5. Regional cooperation. Africa's future prosperity depends on stronger regional cooperation. By improving infrastructure, enhancing trade relationships, and fostering peace and security, African countries can create more integrated and resilient economies. 6. Global partnerships. While seeking foreign investment, African countries must balance international interests with their sovereignty, ensuring that deals are made transparently and equitably, with the long-term welfare of their people in mind. In conclusion, DR Congo's future will depend on its ability to navigate the complex dynamics of resource extraction, political stability, and economic diversification. The proposed mining deal with the US is only a starting point. To truly prosper, DR Congo must build a resilient, diversified economy, invest in human capital, and strengthen its governance structures. For African leaders, DR Congo's experience is a reminder that true progress lies in balancing economic growth with social and environmental responsibility. By prioritizing transparency, fostering inclusive development, and maintaining a strategic vision for the future, African nations can turn their vast natural wealth into a lasting foundation for prosperity. The key to success will be leadership that prioritizes the well-being of citizens, sound governance, and partnerships that benefit both the local population and the broader continent. The choices made today will shape the future of Africa for generations to come. Thank you for watching this deep dive into DR Congo's potential mining deal with the US. What are your thoughts on the future of DR Congo and its mineral wealth? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the Bold African Voice, BAV, for more insightful analysis on Africa's latest developments. Click the notification bell so you never miss a video. Stay informed, stay bold.